growth requires more than capital.
Why do we call it the cheat code? Nobody said growth had to be fair.
Revenue solves everything.
Welcome to the cheat code. What was our fastest path to revenue?
We tend to like to do things the hard way.
What's the cheat code? It's giving yourself an unfair advantage over the others.
What is it that really works, and how are we going to grow these organizations?
That's our cheat code. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Cheat Code. I am Josh Wagner, joined by Justin Gray. Justin, what's happening today?
It's a Thursday, man. All the things.
You got the black shirt memo, the black button up.
Thanks for
we're dialed in, we're ready to go. Yeah. So that was. Oh, I faxed you that. That's right. I forgot my dialer was squeaking. It took me a while to get that one through. Well, as you all know, we're in season 2 of The Cheat Code, and our focus is on go-to-market partnerships. So we're super excited to bring along our next guest today to talk through his cheat code. But before we get into that, let's do a quick introduction. So today's guest is a SaaS and sales partnership executive with over 15 years of scaling partner and sales orgs experience. He was also awarded Partnership Leader of the Year in 2022 by PartnerStack. That's cool. We'll have to jump into that. And is currently the head of partnerships at teamwork.com. Cory Snyder, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having me. I've heard great things.
Oh, wow.
We'll try to live up to that.
Not disappoint you.
That's awesome.
Well, Cory, as you know, we like to jump right into it and get your ultimate partner cheat code. So if you could lay it on us, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I'll keep it super simple. Quantity to quality. You don't focus on
quality.
Getting
Got it.
Quantity to quality. Don't focus so hard on getting perfect. Get the data that gets you to perfect.
Okay. All right. I like it. It's a new one. Again, we love having different takes on this show, and the last 3 guests have been bringing it, including you. So now let's take a step deeper into that. Quantity to quality. What does that look like?
Yeah, so it's a perfect example. I mean, this is historically you're building a new program, right? You can look at this partially from an existing program, but from a new program, a lot of partnership leaders try to nail it at the very beginning. And what I'm talking about is your IPP, your ideal partner profile. And the way that I look at it, the way I've communicated to the board, the way I've communicated to my executive team is, look, I can make an assumption. I've been doing this long enough that I could probably nail our IPP within 85%, right? But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go ahead and create an application process that every partner has to go through that gives me the partner's ICP, so I know who they're selling to. I know what industries they're selling it to. I know how big their team is. I know how big their sales team is. I know what their titles are. Like, I'm collecting so much data that now 6 months in, since January when we started collecting this data, I now know exactly the perfect size partner, what industries they're selling it to, and the whole gamut. And so now we've completely changed our outbound strategy to focus on those ones. And to give an example, this ideal partner profile, it's 6 to 20 employees. They make up 93% of my revenue this year so far.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, now you're...
We would never known that.
Right. So it's the data collection on the front end.
Yeah, totally. Cory,
Yes.
When you say you're building this from scratch, is this a relaunch or is this a total greenfield build?
Yeah, great question. I mean, in my opinion, it was more of a greenfield build. And that's partially because when I came into the organization, we had 40 partners, right? So the program was kind of like, okay, we have something, right? Which I appreciate. At least you went to market with something. And I actually was helping them kind of put this program together throughout the year, just as partner professionals do, we help each other. So I kind of knew the program, but just a perfect example, we went from 40 partners in October to another 42 recruited just in Q4 alone. So we more than double the total number of partners. And it was through just different strategies and tactics that, you develop throughout the years. So for the most part, it was bare bones. It was ready to be built, accelerated, you name it.
Got it. So maybe a good backdrop here would be, what types of partnerships are you looking for in your organization? So what's the data telling you? How are you getting at that? Is it ISV partners, co-sell, co-marketing? Just give us a little bit of a backdrop.
Yeah, good question. I mean, for the most part, we are going after marketing agencies, IT agencies, people that are selling into IT services, professional services, selling to marketing agencies, selling to resellers. Those are actually, what's funny is that ICP is actually a lot of our IPP, our ideal partner profile. So a lot of our customers actually make sense to partner with us because they're selling to our customers. And so that's kind of where we're looking at. We do have the ability to bring on resellers and to support them in a different format and way that we do it. But historically, in my opinion, this will probably stir the market a little bit, is that resellers and marketing agencies from a overall like 10,000 foot view are exactly the same outside of one difference. One owns the billing and one doesn't. But they act exactly the same. They're representing a product. They're selling them consulting services or onboarding services or implementation services. So to me, I look at it from a profile perspective, not from a transaction. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. When it's interesting that you guys found that type of that's kind of S&B in nature, right? And I feel like so many partner programs begin with like shooting at the moon. In fact, we were just like you said, helping another organization, no relation, no investment, kind of form their partner program. And of course, all the logos that they had stacked up are like monster whales. You're talking about like Microsoft and
Fortune 100.
and so forth.
Yeah.
And, we kind of did what you're talking about doing, like take a step back. Like we need to get in market and figure out how this partnership programs are really going to operate. And more importantly, like, are they open to the type of go-to-market partnership that we're looking for? Because, like you said, you've been around and around these environments for long enough. Like I can tell you, Microsoft is not going to be, the most welcoming organization to a small startup. And so I'm curious as to like, were you getting pushback on this approach initially? Like, what did the organization? It sounds like you were working with them prior, so I'm sure that helped. But like, how foreign was this concept to, I guess, what they had naturally laid out in their minds?
I mean, I think that's a great question, because I think that speaks to like this executive alignment that everybody talks about, but nobody ever tells you how to get it. And that's me being straightforward. The good thing was that like they had an understanding that like partnerships, there was a benefit there. They saw some like green shoots and sparkles there from different people coming in saying, hey, I want to resell your stuff. So luckily enough, the executive team knew that there was some benefit there. What they didn't understand is what they look like. Why do they partner? Why do they want to partner? And then where are we taking it from here? And so, going into an organization where they want to know, they're like, Cory, I want to know what our IPP is. And partially, I'm like, look, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you for 6 months until I have data. And my boss was like, they're not going to like that. I'm like, they hired me for a reason, right? I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to set them up. And I cleaned up so much in the first quarter. But that was part of it, was just that whole process of saying, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing. I think that's a missing element. I don't think we teach our partner executives and leaders enough, is like, how do you present things to different teams? When I present to sales, I'm not spitting data at them. I'm speaking to their KPIs. If I'm speaking to my executive team, I'm very specific data oriented, which I love. I think data is unsung hero, if you can tell the story. So did I get a ton of pushback on the methodology? Not necessarily. Once I explained what it was, once I explained how I was collecting it, and once I explained when I think I would have the end result. In addition to that, I was delivering partners like crazy, right? We were scraping lists. We were getting aggressive on our outbound strategy. So luckily enough, I was delivering on the partner acquisition side. I was delivering on, hey, we're getting pipeline. Now I've done all that. Now I need to do it now the pressure is, now I got to deliver revenue, right? So now I got to it's all kind of like a waterfall, if you will. So yeah, if that answers your question.
Yeah, certainly does. That's great.
Yeah, totally dig that process, and want to dig into a couple things you said there. So you kind of alluded to managing up and managing down a little bit. We'll call the AEs managing down, even though that's not necessarily what it is. Talk to both, right? Like you mentioned the data collection process early. So where is it going? How are you using it? What are you doing with it? And then, from the managing up side and then to the managing down, what are you delivering to the AEs?
Yeah, so great question. So even today, we had our entire company call. And one of the things I delivered was our IPP. What is our IPP and why is it important, right? Your ideal partner profile goes into how you market, how you onboard, what they need, the whole nine. It is so important, and people don't focus enough on it. And so that's what I'm delivering to my executive team. Like I delivered to the board last week. And during that conversation with the board, we talked about our ideal partner profile. We talked about what's our conversion rate from pipeline? What are we seeing from partners? Who are our tier 1, tier 2 partners? And really what we found is we have two ideal partner profiles. We have ones that sell quantity, and we have ones that sell large deals, whales. And they look a little different. right? Yeah. And so I was able to deliver that message to the board, like, here's the example of up and coming partners, and this is what their profile looks like, all the way down to like, hey, 93% of our revenue is coming from this clip of cohort of partner. That's who we're targeting from an outbound perspective. And then marketing, this is what I need from you. I need you to help me find these people. And so that's how I'm speaking to the upper team is strategy, methodology, and execution, right? And so they understand, okay, Cory knows what he's talking about. He has a plan. He's executing on that plan, which is obviously important. And then for my account executives, I'm really digging into where are they losing deals? And that's even for the customer success and the account executives. I'm looking at what are the close loss reasons. I'm looking at hey, are you losing for integrations? I got partners that build integrations. And so, I really flipped that on its head when it comes to the account executive team. I just walked by, I'm in the office this week, and I walked by one of the account executives talking, and she's like, we have partners that can do that. I'm like, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Like inception, right? And so I'm delivering for them. I'm helping them close deals. We closed a huge deal last month, and it was a NetSuite integration build that was attached to it, and that partner helped us close that deal. And so they're starting to see these results. And then eventually we'll start pulling in some reveal data, and I'll help them leverage that data that says, this is a HubSpot customer. Make sure you're using that in your sales conversation and so on. So there's a lot of cool stuff that we're working on in the future. But with the AEs, I'm thinking KPIs. How can I help them get revenue? How can I help them not lose deals? And it's the same for the account executives and CSMs.
Yeah. You used one of my favorite sheets, which is be the objection handler. So that's what I used to tell when I would go into our partner software companies. We were a services company, right? And I would go like, use me as your objection handler. When you hear this, you say this. When you hear this, you say this. When you hear this, you say this. And, all roads led to me, obviously, but it was just that super simple, oh, this is what I have to hear to think partner, and this is how they solve for it. And I love that. That's my absolute favorite.
100%.
So kind of in that same vein, given the data perspective, like I've found that the most impactful way to involve sales is to like give them stories that they can be, like use cases and pains that they can look out for, and then stories that they can, respond to those challenges with it. Kind of in terms of what Josh was saying there, like how are you exposing, what you're finding in the data to those sellers and to those field reps so that they know intuitively, like, oh yeah, I should be bringing in partner X over partner Y.
Yeah, I think one thing I did mention is I also have notifications set up in Gong. And I think this ties into your question, is I'm listening for keywords, integration, partnership, anything that I think that partners can handle. I'm listening for that, and I get a notification. And so what I'll do is if I notice something, so for the example, we had one of our account executives got asked about an integration, and I was listening to the call. And so what I did is I quick Googled it, and I was like, do we have an integration? I was like, we do actually have a direct integration. We didn't have it on our site. We didn't know it was there, but the company had it on their website. So I was able to send it to the account executive and say, hey, by the way, we do have an integration with this company. It sounded like you didn't know if we did or didn't. Go deliver this to the customer. Or if I hear on a call that they're looking for zero and they're like, we don't have a zero integration. Actually, we do. We have a partner that has a zero integration. So it's partially just like staying in front of them. Just like with anything, with your partners, you try to stay at top of mind. I'm trying to do the same thing with my account executives, but I'm using real life calls to give me those examples. So it's easy for them to connect the dots, and they're like, oh yeah, I literally just talked to them last week. So I'm using their accounts to help them.
Yeah, that's such a critical point that we don't talk to enough. I feel like, you get this big push for process and everything needs to be there through CRM, but like that augmentation layer and role that, the partner manager and the partner team plays is just like such a critical aspect, because something's going to get missed. Someone's not going to be looking at the right stuff, or the data's not updated. Like you've got to be there to kind of catch those as they almost fall between the cracks.
Agreed. I would also add quickly is on the company call, and I do this with the account executive team on the company call, I selfishly leverage that time to ask the company for things. When I'm on the board meeting, I ask for that stuff for them. When I'm in my Connect call, there's 300 people on a call. So during that IPP conversation, I said, if you guys see this, if you're talking to this profile, send them to me or my partner acquisition person so we can get them as a partner. Yes, we can get them on the revenue for being a customer, but why not sell to their customers? And so it's helping people kind of get that idea and that example. That's the same thing with the sales team. is we get more referrals from the sales team than we do inbound from our website as of right now.
Yeah, makes sense.
Oh, wow.
Partner referrals, like, hey, you should be a partner.
Yeah.
Curious on the flip side of that, right? Like, how much from your partners, how much is expected of you to give to them, right? Like, how does that partner relationship work on your side?
Luckily enough, we had the excuse that we're building a program, so it's new. So that bought us a little bit of time from a delivery standpoint. But I'm very clear with my partners, and I feed those that feed us. It's very simple. It's very clear. It's probably annoys a lot of partners out there that just want to be fed and they don't want to do anything back. But at the end of the day, like, if we're willing to work together, whether it's co-marketing activities or whatever it is, I will feed who feeds me. The cool part about it is it comes in different ways. So as like a perfect example, I came into the organization, I said, our partner directory is not what it needs to be. It's horrible. And it's not, and that sounds rude. It's not horrible. It's just not, it's not allowing the transaction. Right?
What was it missing? What did you find that was like, not present there that needed to be?
Yeah. So one, it was super simple, which isn't necessarily negative, but it was like a video or a picture and then a description. And there was no filters at all. So I went through and I basically reached out to some of the people that I've worked with in the past. So we ended up going with a company called PartnerFleet for our partner directory. Well, I got that fully built out and I launched it. And in the last 2 months, we've had 2,600 reviews to that page. And the partner hit me up yesterday and said, I've gotten 2 leads from you yesterday. And these are and the benefit there is that now I'm not the bottleneck for the internal teams. And I'm like, hey, do you have a partner that does this? Now I'm building out that so I can say, go filter, go look. But these are prospects that are finding them and they're customers that are finding them. And so now they're like, I had a partner that was the biggest skeptic. I talked to him on the phone when I first started. He's like, I've heard it, dude. I've heard it. We built out a live accreditation. So we got rid of our certification. We said, if you want to get accredited, you need to come here in person. And he's like, you've changed my mind. You've literally changed my mind. I'm like, I just got 2 leads from you. And I said, Marcus, now it's time for you to bring revenue to me.
Yeah, so, a lot of times all you need to do is ask for that. You mentioned being top of mind, like those conversations and just reminding people, surfacing, hey, this deal's going on between 2 of our AEs, just being present. There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, and delivering to your point, like not all partner pages work, right? Directories work. So we built out a full LMS, what we call Partner Hub, that's got 19 courses in there. All the courses we give to sales, we give to our partners. So our partners can learn about all the products, their competitors, pricing, the whole 9. And so we're trying to give partners everything they're asking for, right? And at a call with a partner today, it's like, hey, this is great. Thank you for bringing us leads, but what can I do for you? But sincerely, what can I do for you? You're trying to open up a market. How can I help you go to market with that? And I think that's a lot of times we use that as like, we're not really willing to do it, but I'm willing. If you tell me that you need something, I'll go to my marketing team and I'll get it for you. If you need a video, a Wistia file to put on your site, I'll get you that. And I think that's the difference is like when partners ask you for something, if they're delivering and you're not, that's going to be a big issue. You're going to burn partners quickly.
Yeah. What I love about the approach is that you're using technology to enable better human interaction. You're not just using the technology to be a layer that distances you from the partner, the customer, the AEs. You're actually saying this technology is going to make me a better supporter of all of the above, right?
100%. Yeah. The whole concept of do more with less, I don't necessarily agree with. So what we're doing is we're doing more with what we have. Not with less, we're just doing more with it. And so we were doing so many manual tasks when I started, and I've completely automated that flow through PartnerStack, through HubSpot, through PartnerFleet, through creating sandbox accounts. I mean, I have this thing fully built out to where it's just a well-oiled machine, and it allowed my partner acquisition person to go from 5 to 15. And that was the big difference.
A little bit of a gear shift on you. A lot of the things that you're talking about are, we'll call them slightly more mature partner strategies. And even when we come into the startups that we invest in, oftentimes we start with that IPP exercise that you described. How would you coach a startup founder to start wrapping their heads around partnership and how they should look and view them?
I teach people all the time. In my opinion, this is how I look at it. There's 3 methodologies or 3 directions you can go. All of your partners are an extension of your team, but not all your partners are an extension of every team. Affiliates, referral partners, they're an extension of your marketing team, and we should be looking at it that way. How do we get our brand out there and our voice out there? Affiliates, referral partners. Solution partners cover the entire gamut, but it's not a fit for every company, right? If your software is super easy to use, you're probably not going to get a lot of traction with resellers and solution partners. And then there's the technology side, integrations, things like that, right? So you have these three buckets that I put everybody in, technology being an extension of our marketing team and our success and support and churn kind of thing. So I basically go in and I say, this. Every company should launch a referral partner affiliate program, in my opinion. There's no reason not to, right? You can get a bunch of people to evangelize and do all that cool stuff, and marketing can give them the support they need to be able to be that evangelist on a monthly basis. That's my opinion. So I always say, start easy, start simple, just get something live. Try not to be perfect, just get something out there. And then at that point in time, you develop, okay, what makes sense? Then you start listening to CSM calls and you start understanding, what are they saying? I'm working with this company, or I'm working with this agency, I'm working with this person, or I need this integration. That will help you then develop what your next program should be. But I always like to, because I build out partner programs all the time in helping people on the side. And I always say, just start with one. Start something simple, get it live, get some momentum, get some understanding, get some partners under your belt. Then you roll into your next program, which is a little bit deeper, a little bit more advanced, and you get to build it over time. So that's my opinion on how to do it.
So you mentioned something there a couple times in terms of like being in the board meeting and so on, which is not a given. It's not where a lot of organizations, bring head of partnerships, VP of partner, biz dev, or whatever they're calling it. Like, did you fight for that access, or was that something that they were just so bought in that was natural and intuitive to them?
So here at teamwork.com, I didn't have to fight for it all. They looked at it as a requirement. Like, you need to come and tell our board what you're doing. I reported into the SVP of sales, or the EVP of sales, I think, worldwide sales. And I would also say this: when you have a great leader you report to, it makes a massive difference. He wants me in those meetings. He wants me to deliver these messages because I'm the one that's owning it, right? So he's very much like, Cory. And so that's a benefit. At Sendoso, I had the full opportunity to report to the board, and I had asked a couple times, and they were willing to do it. And partially I was like, I don't know if I want to. So I've reported to I've gotten into board meetings a couple times. At Teamwork, it's been totally different in the sense that they are 100% like, this is one of our top 10 initiatives of the year, is partnership. So you want to know what's going on. It's accountability in the end, right? I'm the one doing it. I'm the throat to choke, in lack of better words. And so they're just like, Cory, come in and report. And then, my boss helps me kind of like put things together from a deck perspective. We get a lot of direction from our executive team. Like, hey, don't talk about this. Don't do this. Stuff like that. But,
Well, it's interesting because when we were selling marketing to marketers tended to have a hard time translating marketing into board speak. It like wasn't the same language. How much of a translation layer do you have, or do you feel like it's pretty straightforward?
It was pretty interesting, actually. But luckily enough, I found that like presenting to the executive team really wasn't that much different to the board. The only difference was the executive team can give you direction saying they don't know a ton about partnerships, so maybe go a little bit deeper on it, right? And so that is super important around the direction of how do you present to the board. So give an example. I presented on who our partner types are, our IPP, obviously, but I also had a whole slide on what do we expect from our partners and what do we deliver. So they kind of get an understanding. I also had a timeline of what we do from acquisition to onboarding to the whole thing, and really explain like, what does each position on the team mean and what do they do? And then I rolled into, here are the numbers. Here's where we're at. This is alignment to our ICP. This is in it because I had the data. I could literally report on all of this data. And so it was interesting because when I first started, I would say that I expected our executive team to know everything about partnerships. And I think that's a flawed way of looking at it, right? There's a dumb assumption in a way. And so they kept saying like, Cory, no, dumb this down. We want to fully understand, which I appreciated. I was like, hell yeah, I'm down with that. And so now I have them up to speed. So it's a little bit different, but if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it's huge. The ability to deliver education in a concise manner for that group is only going to help your cause moving forward, right? Like if you just come in and start spitting numbers at them that they're like, okay. Right. Sales is so easy, right? It's the cash register rate. We got pipeline, we got close one, right? Everyone gets that. You can put it on a bar chart and executives, board members, they're all happy with it. But things like partnerships and marketing, it's not as clear cut. And if you don't educate along the way, you're going to find yourself in a tough spot somewhere along the line.
I also think there's times where we hide behind data. So data can be absolutely massive for us, but if you hide behind it, then at that point in time, you're going to put yourself in a lot of trouble. And I think that's where they lose confidence in your ability from a strategy and methodology standpoint, right? So I'm very much telling the story about the data, but I'm also accepting like, I need to deliver results. I know where I stand. There's self-awareness here. Like we are up and to the right. There's definitely a gap on what we're trying to accomplish and what we're actually accomplishing, but we are trying to 6.5x our revenue in 1 year. So there is a level of like expectations I set from the beginning, but I'm owning it. And I think that's a big difference is I'm not trying to hide or make excuses. I'm saying, this is what we're doing. This is where we're landing. This is what we're trying to do to course correct. We're seeing some issues or some concerns that we have within the partner program. And here's how we're implementing solutions. That like, I'm not pushing blame. I'm owning it and saying, here's where we're going. And that's made a massive difference.
So with the kind of getting back to the quantity to quality approach, right? Like, did you find, because I know you had mentioned there's a huge kind of, ecosystem in place already, or at least, a list of partner relationships. Do you find that you're often, once you've got the necessary data to lock in on that IPP and how you're going to engage with partners, that you're also kind of trimming and pruning back the overall partner ecosystem? Like, hey, these guys aren't going to work. Let's get them out of the purview.
Since I've been doing this for a long time, I really don't remove partners. They kind of, and what I mean by that is they kind of like self-remove themselves. There's really not
they opt out.
Yeah, they kind of just opt out, or they're in the ecosystem, but they're not really engaged. Which is totally fine, right? Like, hey, you do your thing. And so we just focus on the ones that we consider active, right? But we really don't remove them. If they ever want to be like, hey, I'm done, I'm not going to be a partner, no problem. We can take care of that.
But it really is about like focusing the attention on the folks that, are going to yield results.
Correct. We're very clear with our partners. If you put in effort, we put in effort. It's that simple. It's not revenue. You put in effort, say it's co-marketing, we'll put in effort. So we will match your energy, if you will, or your actions, basically.
Yeah, which is where I think, you mentioned like not hiding behind data. Like a lot of that stuff is, doesn't show up on a report. And so you've got to have someone that's got a pretty close relationship and a lens on the heartbeat there, certainly.
So 2022 Partnership Leader of the Year, there's got to be a story behind that, a campaign, a result, something. Give us the down low.
I just knew a lot of people internally. I'm just kidding.
Greased a lot of palms for that.
That's right.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's, partially my career has been made up of SMB, right? So 10 years I spent at Infusionsoft, now called Keep. They were at 15 million. I rode that all the way to 100 million, built their partner program from the ground up. And all of that kind of stuff. And so I realized...
Which is a massive partner program, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And it's still live. Yeah, which is even cooler. And so I realized quickly, I love to build. Like, I don't like to take over existing partner programs for sure, for the most part. Like, as long as it's small, I love to build and rebuild and make a massive impact. That's kind of what I enjoy. And so that's kind of how I've hopped around other organizations. Where I worked for a company called Maripost, where I launched their partner program from the ground up. And I started building out their sales team. But they have 4 products, and I launched PartnerStack across 4 products. In the first year, just on the Maripost main product, I generated $1 million just from our trusted advisors and affiliates. And so we saw massive growth, and which was incredible, right? I'm trying to do the same thing now, but in the SMB market, which is 100 times harder. And if I do it, I should get like a crown or something. But that's really what it came down to. Is it was a case study. It was kind of like Cory starting from zero, and then he's building it, and we accelerated on the partner acquisition side, dialing in our IPP, all that kind of good stuff, but we delivered on the revenue side. And that's really that story, that case study, if you will, of implementing. I built out 3 or 4 instances of PartnerStack, and the first one I built out, I did it in 30 days. So I launched a partner program for Maripost in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And so they were like, oh, interesting. And again, that's part of like what I mentioned before. Just put something out there.
Yeah, right.
You want, just
don't overthink it.
No need to be yeah, don't be a perfectionist, because the market changes so much that if you're not evolving your partner program every 6 months, like if you think your partner's program, if you think your partner program is done, so are you. And that's the way that it's going to work. So that's how I think I got voted in. I also helped a ton on the community side. So I help a ton of partner leaders. I try to give them tactical stuff. I don't do 10,000 foot view. I'm like screenshots of literally what I'm doing day to day with my partners. And I think that helped on the voting side. It was just the relational aspect.
Well, that's great. I think that's a great segue. So, where can people find you if they want that kind of hands-on tactical support?
Yeah. So LinkedIn's obviously the easiest way, is like reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to jump on a call and say, hey, pick my brain for 30 minutes. I'll pick your brain for 30 minutes. We'll see how we can learn from each other. And I think that's most of it. I do drop some articles here and there, and I've done some podcasts and some webinars. And so you can learn some of those tactical things from there as well.
I mean, you'll obviously be promoting the hell out of this one soon. So, there's
damn right.
There's going to be that. So I say give teamwork.com a little plug. What's it all about?
Yeah. So we're really doing big things with teamwork.com. The issue in the market right now that we're trying to solve for is you have really two softwares that a company needs if they really want to do professional services, right? You have PSA products and you have project management. And the problem is we're trying to connect the dots between these products, right? You're trying to do retainer budgets. You're trying to do all these different time management, tied to revenue, tied to hours billed, all of that stuff. You have to have two softwares. And what we're doing is we're crossing that chasm, if you will, and creating one product that solves the pain points for the entire company. So they don't have to have this mashed together piece. And so that's kind of like teamwork.com. And then we have another product called Desk, which is support, IT, tickets, things like that. That's also a solid product. But yeah, that's what we're solving for, that pain point of customers having to bounce around between products, potentially shoddy API integrations, things like that. So
Justin,
it is a pain point. Yeah, exactly. I was saying, lived and breathed that one for too long.
Yes, you guys feel it. Yes.
Very, very good. Well, Cory, we really appreciate it. Again, the cheat code here, moving from quantity to quality. I think all the stories that you shared certainly back that up. Get something out there and then improve over time and continue to improve, right? There's no end game. I love that last point that you made there. So we do appreciate your time, and thank you for joining the show.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. So those of you are listening for the first time, please give us a like, give us a comment, anything you can do, whatever platform you're listening on. You can find us on all of those. On behalf of Justin, on myself, thank you for joining the cheat code.